Over there. Hey
All
there.
righty, there you are. Okay, great. Well, we are live. Welcome and good morning. How are you feeling? Oh, look at
Uh,
you. You got virtual background going on?
well, I needed to do something about my set of circumstances. So, yes, I have a virtual background.
And today I don't because I am on a different computer at a different part of our house because we are getting a 9-foot window repaired. So there you go. I can't be in my room that has my giant console.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I'm
Well,
actually not on a Mac. I'm actually on a Microsoft. So this is kind of you know,
this is
PC versus
I
Apple.
was gonna say this is unfamiliar for territory for you. This is not
It
your favorite
is.
switchover,
It
right?
is. It is. I know. Well, it is what it is, right? I don't have any setup here. I did the best I could.
Totally get that. Totally
Oh,
understand that.
well, you doing good? Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's a little bit of none of the above. I mean, it's for those who don't know, I'm dealing with COVID-19 personally and in my household. And although we practice as safely as we can, still found ourselves exposed. And I am now dealing with fatigue and headaches and
Mm,
uh, just not a great feeling. I can tell you that part of it. It's not devastating to us. Knock on wood. So I'll use the
yeah.
next best thing, my hollow head. But it is trying, and it's real. I can tell you that part of it. It's definitely real.
Wow.
So we're doing what we can. We're isolated. We've been isolated now for almost a week, and we'll continue to do so for probably another 10 days or so. Just to be a little more cautious, and that makes it very interesting in your interpersonal family dynamics. Let me tell you that part. There's no place to go. Actually, in all fairness, my family has been outstanding. My family's been outstanding.
Oh,
They really have. And we've gotten a ton of love and support. All of a sudden, the dogs go crazy because people are dropping stuff off at the porch, which is very, very lovely and very thoughtful.
that's the thing. We definitely have an amazing village. It takes a village, as they say, and we are surrounded by just such giving, caring, kind people. And I think that, I mean, you do bring about what you do about, right? And you're constantly there for others. And I think that the reciprocity you get to receive in a time of downturn, that just truly goes to show you the true colors of the community and who's out there and that cares about you. So, especially as you're embarking on your birthday weekend too in quarantine. So, birthday, it's like another date now, right? That is what it is.
Well, they are. I mean, they're literally like little speed limit signs that you drive by. Choof, choof, choof. They go pretty quick. But yeah, it's interesting in the sense that it's a different feeling or vibe about it, but it also changes, just the cadence of life, like how fast you move and what you do through the course of a day, how effective you can be in your outreach and communication with others. So that part's been nice
Right.
because there's a fair amount of communication, um, and you just hope that everybody else that is well, and that they don't experience this because it's a little miserable. And what's interesting is in my own household, we've all four have experienced it in a different way, different types of, and relative to other people's experiences, we're not severe, and I really am very grateful and weirdly humbled and thankful for that part of it,
Mm.
because we certainly know people close to us that have had much more severe bouts with this thing. Um, and I would also just really try to address that. You can't be too cautious, can't be too careful, can't be too considerate. You just can't. A, I'm a hardy, strong, vibrant guy, and I'm always outdoors and always doing things physical and exercising, and my body's weakened, my mind is tired, and it is actually having an impact. And that's me in a relatively healthy form. I can imagine people that are compromised and how significant it really is for them, truly
Well,
significant. So
All I can
And
say is it's already December. Thank goodness for technology. Thank goodness for Zoom,
yeah,
frankly, and
that's
this
true.
platform. The fact that we can safely still engage in a conversation and create a show, even though you're not 100%. It's kind of like the Chris Cuomo kind of deal when he was reporting from his basement under quarantine, when he had it. And it is just keeping everybody safe and still being able to report and talk about the issues that are going on in the world. So I don't want to keep our guests waiting too
No,
long,
please,
but I'm
please, please.
excited with December and the ending of Thanksgiving, which this was, I don't know about you guys, but Thanksgiving was much quieter this year. Still baked the turkey, but only had my sister and my niece and nephew over. So instead of 30 some people, it was 8 of us, and just kept it real small and close, and still had a lot of comfort food, plenty of fat and carbs. So that's okay. Give us sustenance to keep on going on heading into the holidays. And speaking of holidays, we're excited to have a shop owner in our community join us this morning, Danielle from Trove, which is just this great little consignment shop over here on Westwood Boulevard. She battled pretty hard to be in this community. I'm gonna bring her in, Sean, if that's okay with you.
Oh, please, of course.
And get a chance to say hello to Danielle. Good morning.
Hi, how are you? Good to see you guys.
I
Hey
know.
there, good
Behind her
morning.
is her shop, a virtual image of her shop, which is
Here you go.
amazing. It's right next to Pitfire over on Westwood Boulevard. And I love it because it's like treasure trove, right? Is that how you came up with the name?
Exactly. I love it, Jay. You're like our Trove ambassador here, doing the Trovisms to the world.
I get it. Unlock the treasure trove, right?
Exactly.
Your whole logo and everything. Oh, I get it. I've done a lot of marketing, so I see it. I love it.
Glad it's
Well, we're
working.
curious, Danielle. How did you even come about opening the store, creating the store concept?
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. I wish I could tell you like I had this background and passion for clothes, but really, I don't know. I think I had postpartum delirium when I had my third daughter because I just took a total left turn. I mean, I like have my degree from like Wharton and UCLA and did all of these corporate, finance and strategy jobs. And then I had my daughters. And I was like, wouldn't it be so cool to like have my own store? That will be easy and fun. And yes, I would say
we can only laugh being owners ourselves, like the blood, sweat, and tears that goes into it.
Like this myth that like working for myself was going to unlock all of this freedom. I mean, it was hilarious, but and wealth. But my mom actually growing up, my mom was like a huge yard sale, garage sale shopper. Just for fun, that was like her thing she did with her girlfriends. And then growing up, she volunteered at a charity consignment store. And then she ended up like managing the store. And one day I was just thinking, like, what could I do? Well, let me call her. And so I asked her, like, can you send me the income statement for last year's sales or whatever? And she's like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, like revenues. And she's like, oh, well, I think this. And I got the numbers and I'm like, whoa, this is like a really good business. And it's such an awesome business because you're helping the earth, which is something like you get a bargain and you're doing something good. That's
use, reuse,
like
recycle, right? Yeah.
I mean, and especially now, everyone has so much stuff. They have the wrong stuff. They want to change the stuff. And then there's all these people that want the stuff. And it's kind of like a gateway to all of that. And all of these resale stores are doing that. But what's specific about our store that I have tried to do is like the idea, besides being like the TJ Maxx of consignment, where you can get more than just clothes and shoes, you can also get fun tchotchkes or beauty things or antiques or collectibles. It really is a treasure hunt.
And
but
toys.
really the vibe, the vibe, we're in California, so the vibe is very important. And the vibe that we're trying to do is be like a modern day beauty shop. In LA, sometimes you feel like you lack community.
Yeah.
And so we wanted it to feel like everyone can come in. It's not like, oh, we're so cool. It's like just the hip people, like,
Right.
we don't want your stuff. We're cool. It's for everybody. And we've had customers that have become friends. Like they exchange numbers in the store and they go and hang out. And I just love that. It's like a place to hang out, especially now. Like we're safe. We're doing all the COVID safe stuff. And you can just pop in and feel like you're visiting with some friends, as they say in the South. You're visiting, and then you just go home.
It
You don't
really
have
is
to like
true
clean
though.
up.
Yeah, I've shopped there a bit, and I can honestly say it is just, it's not only is it eye candy. I mean, everywhere you look, there's something interesting to look at, but it's very welcoming. The people that work there are just so fun and sassy and you know,
Sassy.
engaging. And no, in like that fun
I'll tell
way.
Julian you said he's sassy.
Yeah, I love it. And the fact that, yeah, I mean, you have the same premise that Sean and I have created, which is kind of like that place that we call home.
Totally.
Everybody's welcome, and we're genuine, real people, you know.
1,000%. I had one of my girlfriends came to the store. She hadn't been here in a while, and she was just waiting like to buy something. And she turned to me and she said, "Oh, I get it. This is Cheers. This is the show Cheers, because literally you and your team, like you guys know everyone's name. You're like, how's your son? Did he get back from Texas? Oh, hey, Julie, what's going on?" Like the amount of people whose names we know. I
always run into somebody. I know. I always run into somebody I know when I'm nearby there. Even. Yeah.
Like I think I know more people here than I knew in high school. I think I can remember the names of more of my customers than classmates. But yeah, it's fun. We have so much fun.
That's awesome. Well, Sean, I know that you had some things you wanted to ask Danielle, and I didn't know if you were.
Yeah, no, I'm just listening. Actually, what I'm loving is the it's translating, Danielle, the passion that you have and the different purposes. You know, we talk about the crazy inspiration, like where you were in your life, and you were like, okay, well, let's see. I've just added a third child that's dependent upon my love, nurturing, and care, and I'll go ahead and get a fourth child that's named the Trove, and I'll see if I can throw that on my shoulders.
Yeah, it's kind of like triplets.
Right? Yeah, at the same, twice. I mean, it's just. But what's really cool about it actually is, well, there's so many things. Like one of the things I would love to know is, why did you choose that section? Why did you choose that location? Was it just because of the size of the store? Or was it the neighborhood?
Well, you know
what drew you there?
Yeah, like the location. It's so funny. I live 5 blocks from here. So, in my fantasy world where I wasn't spending like every waking moment here, I was like, I'll just walk over to the store. And I'll just walk over to my kid's school. But I was.
I'm sorry, but that's just funny. Like you could just leave the store now.
Yeah, like we'll just. My mom kept telling me like, it's going to be hard, and I'm like, now, I think I can master the register. She's like, that's not what I mean by it's going to be hard, but but it is really like having a kid because it's so hard but so worth it. But I was going for a walk one day. And I saw this building. I don't know if you guys remember what it was before. It was like this furniture store.
Yeah, I do.
Painted like a really neon green, like neon. So I'm like, what is this? How have I lived here all these years? I didn't notice it. I'm like, well, that would be cool. And I look up the LoopNet listing, but I think I did the math wrong. Like I wasn't realizing like how much square footage there was. But I came to visit with the realtor, and I just like saw everything. I was like, oh, this could be the processing room, and this could be the online shipping, and this could be where we have X, Y, and Z. And then it just kind of worked out. I also really grossly overestimated my revenues in year 1. So I thought, oh, I could pay this right now. Do you want to get paid in full? This is great. I'm not anticipating the whole, you got to work up to those revenues. But it's been great. And we have fabulous landlords. I just want to give a shout out to our landlords that have been super understanding with COVID, and they're amazing. They own a bunch of buildings on the block. They are the landlords for Pitfire. They've just been really awesome.
Oh, so lucky.
Super fortunate. I don't think a lot of people say their landlords are great, but
no, I've never heard it. It's the first time.
You heard it here first.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah. Well, how do you find all your little treasures? I'm looking at like all the little things that are behind you, but how do you find all these things?
It's funny. I thought that was going to be the hard part, like getting the stuff. I think I overestimated how hard it would be to find the stuff and underestimated how long it would take to like build the clientele. But our consigner base is amazing. Our very first consigner, he consigned things here before we were open. He was just like knocking on the door, like, what's this business? I have stuff. He still consigns here.
Wow.
And
Wow.
I mean, that was 4 years ago. And people just bring things back. And we have a lot of people that work with professional organizers, work with estate sellers. I think because we take such a breadth of items, they can bring the NutriBullet that they never opened. They can bring the dishes from IKEA that they never wanted to drive back to Burbank. They can bring, you know, all their clothes, obviously, and shoes, their kids' toys that they got for Christmas, that they have 7 of the squirrel game. You can just bring it all here. So we've been really fortunate in that regard, and it's amazing. It's like all the same faces, and then they tell friends, and so there's definitely a lot of stuff. People have a lot of stuff.
It's like you breathe life back into it, right? There's the idea of it paying it forward or moving it forward or upscaling or upcycling.
Totally. And it's so funny because you'll find someone who's consigning and they might be in their 80s and they're consigning things that are no longer in fashion for them. And then a college student from UCLA is like, oh my, I am scoring. And they're buying all of the stuff. And in what world would these two people know each other or meet? It's so cool.
It is
true.
cool.
That's like a really fun part of it, to see how excited the people are that are getting the things, and how the people that brought them in have such like they want their items to be loved. They don't want to just
It's matchmaking.
Yeah.
Literally, it's like item matchmaking every single day. And when that match is like perfect, it's so glorious, isn't it?
Well, and with fast fashion now, I mean, I didn't know that fast fashion is second only to petroleum in how horrible it is for the earth. Like, it's unbelievable.
Mhm.
And beyond that, you can buy things here for probably less than you're paying at H&M or whatever, and it's going to last forever. It's
Yeah.
gonna, it's going to be made of like really nice materials, wool, silk, whatever. And if you take care of it, you can have it for such a long time. It's kind of cool, really.
The stuff just kind of doesn't die. It just keeps going.
Exactly. Doesn't go in a landfill.
Oh, that's so nice. Well, you have online shopping these days, right? I mean, how has this pandemic affected you guys? And tell us a little bit about the
Great
timeline
question.
of what happened in the beginning to where it is
Yeah,
now.
I mean, it's fascinating. So we closed in March and we couldn't open till June. What's interesting for us, we were closed March 20th, whatever. And then we were going to open June 1st, but then there was all the unrest. And also I'm homeschooling 3 kids. So I'm like, let's just wait till June 15th.
Sure.
And we opened the store and we had all winter inventory because we only sell things for 7 weeks.
Sure.
So everything was like March, it had slowed down. So these were things that came in February, and you're like, okay, it's June. Cool. We have nothing to sell anyone.
Yeah, right.
So all of our business in June was housewares and jewelry and collectibles. And thank God we have those categories, which a lot of stores don't have.
Wow.
And I scrambled in March to June to set up our Shopify site. What started happening, interestingly, shockingly to me, as I thought I could predict so many things, we would spend all this time taking the picture, uploading it, but then it would sell in the store. And you're like, well, that was kind of a waste of time, because who knew all these people were going to buy all of this stuff? And it's tricky, because to predict what will be a good online seller versus an in-store seller, to make sure you're not doubling the work. And then of course we only have one of everything. So being careful to reconcile the inventory so you don't sell something that you have one of twice. It's been tricky. We're still figuring it out. We've slowed down on our online because we've actually been really busy in the store. We in October had our busiest month ever.
Wow. Wow, that's interesting. That's super interesting.
It was like a total mix of, like, a weird mix of things we were selling. It It's 2020, so who knows?
Yeah, nothing makes sense in 2020. That's what we've all
it's
come to the
October
conclusion.
2020, so
Right.
it's probably going to make a lot of sense that it makes no sense.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
it was so indicative that it was that the great little metaphor is the idea that you had winter clothing for the summer, and you're like, okay, so
Yep.
2020 just threw us completely off. Jay and I remember that too. We started January 2020 like, holy smokes, this is gangbusters. We're gonna just go nuts, and this is so exciting. And then all of a sudden, here's a left turn you didn't see coming, and
Oh
it's
my gosh.
off a cliff.
Yes. Especially
right?
for us, like we have it's not very seasonal, but it's pretty seasonal. Like January and February, like you're just keeping the lights on here. And then March is when everything picks up. And you're just building momentum. March, April, May. It's like, whoa, yeah, yeah. Then June it slows down again. So that was really cool to be closed for those momentum months.
Yeah.
That was
Prime
awesome. I loved it. It was great. Everyone's like, oh my gosh, I'm binge watching. I'm like, oh, what am I doing? I'm having a nervous breakdown.
Right, I'm drowning.
What else am I
Thank you.
doing? Yeah. They're like, isn't it great? Like I'm doing all these crafts with my kids. I'm like, I'm really trying hard not to yell at everyone every day.
All day long. That's so funny.
But it was, we did come to the store so that we felt like we had somewhere to go because it wasn't open. So my kids were like learning how to use their Heelys while I was figuring out how to dress the mannequin for the online stuff. So it's a family effort.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. When you're a store owner, it definitely is a family effort. I grew up with my dad owning a grocery store, and trust me, you get paid $1 an hour, off the shelves, price tag everything.
Oh my gosh, yes, my mom managed
an hour.
And one day I was like 12. Okay, mom. And my mom was like yelling at me in the store. And this customer's like, you really shouldn't talk to your employees that way. And my mom said, oh, that's my daughter. And the lady goes, oh, yeah, okay, fine.
Slap her around.
Reverse nepotism.
By the way,
where is the favoritism here?
By the way, Mom, 25 years later, I still remember the story, right? I still remember that trauma. Thanks, Mom.
See? Yes, it was good foundational thing. See, hard work. I'm from Philadelphia. It was a lot of like hard work.
I know, but when you own a business, it's like your business is your life and your life is your business. It's just the way it is.
Totally.
There's such a blurred line of the overlap that the whole family does. They whether they choose to or not, they're a part of our business no matter what.
It's hilarious to me that when I had these like super hard to get like corporate jobs, I remember my oldest daughter was 3, and one day she looked at me and she said, do you know how to use a computer? And I said, what? And she said, well, I mean, I know daddy knows how to use a computer. What? I was so offended. But now, like having a store and they can like see all the hard work, they like that show Boss Baby. So they keep telling me that I'm the boss baby and I'm the CEO. I'm the CEO. Mom, you're the CEO of Trove. I'm like, yes, we'll be listing on the NASDAQ very soon. But it's cool.
I love that character. Alec Baldwin did such a great job on that show.
The show's hilarious. Like I watch it without my kids. I'm like cracking up. But yeah, it's nice to set that example for my kids and to have them like see the hard work and see how much fun it is too, and see how rewarding it is.
Oh yeah.
So I do like it a lot, I have to say. All my complaining, that's just my way.
Well,
I spend like so much time here. How could I not love it? Why would I'm like come at night and I'm like come early. My husband's like, why are you there? You don't even open until 12. I'm like, I just want to organize. I just want to see it before it opens. He's like, okay. Okay.
Well, you've definitely developed a reputation and you're well known in the community. We know that. As you think about different proprietors and different shops that are in our area, I think of Paul Tyler over at John O'Groats, or I think of Judy over at Food, or I think of you at Trove. There aren't many, by the way, that are that engaging, that you really feel warmth and that you want to come in and experience. And the Trove is exactly that. I wonder if things like, I don't know, I think they're called the American Pickers, or shows where people are always going through storage lockers and seeing like these little treasures and tchotchkes, if that actually hasn't sparked more interest in your type of business. Because the fact that you were busy like this in October is really just kind of like, are people watching that
Mhm.
much TV? They're getting inspired to go treasure shop.
Well, I think for us, a lot of it is a supply game. So when we have a lot of supply, even if we don't have a lot of customers, they tend to buy more things because it is really like a treasure. Like there's only one and I have to get it now. And everyone during this quarantine did seem to be cleaning out their closets, getting organized. So we were slammed with
Guilty.
inventory coming in to the point that I was like, oh, like, should I take that? Like, I don't have any customers. Like, I don't know if anyone's going to buy this. And we're like, we'll just go with it. And it was funny. At one point, we're like, oh my God, this is like embarrassing. We have so much stuff. And now our stock, our like housewares and collectibles were so depleted that we started telling people, hey, do you have more? Do you have more? And so,
Wow.
and now they're full again for Christmas and the holidays and all of that. But I think, you know, we saw a huge influence with the Marie Kondo show on Netflix.
Yeah.
That was major. That was like, okay, another joy sparker coming in with like 19 bins of things. And it
Wow.
was cool because the people were like, they felt lighter. They felt like accomplished. They felt like it's going somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm doing something, and they're happier when they go home.
Well, it's hard to just throw it away. I have to tell you, to organize all the stuff and, you know, some of the things, if you think about what the price tag really was when you first got it, not to be attached to it, but it's hard to just like throw it in the trash. Whereas,
Yeah, especially when you're like, I paid this and like maybe I bought the wrong size or maybe it was the wrong color and like, and I don't know what this charity store is really doing. Are they a charity? What is the charity? What does it stand for? So I always tell people you can consign here and then you can take your earnings and donate that to any charity you want. And we started working with my parish and my daughter's school because they invested so much money with COVID. We're like, why don't we just have anyone from it's St. Paul the Apostle? They can bring the stuff here and then the money can go to the school. So we started that program. But honestly, anyone can take their consignment earnings. And I joke, I'm like, get yourself a latte, maybe lunch, depending how much you earn, and then give the rest to something you're passionate about. We as a store donate to St. Jude's every year. We take when the people don't pick their things up and we end up selling them later, we take part of those earnings and give that to St. Jude's because that's a charity that I've researched that I think is amazing. But everyone can do that. And before my store, I mean, I had tons of like Banana Republic, J. Crew, all of that. And I'm like, where am I? They don't, this is not designer. Where am I taking this? And now we feel like we've opened up that channel for a lot of people that might be in the bridge designer, or we say we do Zara to Prada. It's like, maybe you have a Chanel bag, maybe you don't. We don't care. You can bring us Zara clothes. We love it. Bring us J. Crew, Madewell, Tory Burch, whatever.
right.
It'll all sell.
Right. No kidding. That's so awesome. And are there anything that the public should know in terms of gearing into the holiday shopping time right now?
Well, we have tons of stuff for your holiday preparations, whatever that looks like in 2020. We do have something that came yesterday that was exciting. Never had this before. A new in-box KitchenAid mixer, like the professional, like
those are
big,
legit. Yeah,
yes,
that's legit.
And it's Empire Red. It's got a bow on it. It's in the front of the store. So we have those, holiday. We have a beautiful Tiffany ornament that came in. It's a little stocking. We have an antique brass menorah that we just got in. Tons of ornaments, but also lots of unique gifts. Spoiler alert, I got the kids' teachers these like Capiz shell apples. I usually give them a gift card, but I thought, oh, these are like these beautiful painted apples for a teacher. I'm like, oh, that's cool. And right now we have,
sure, like on a desk type of thing, right?
yeah, like put it on the desk, give it with the gift card. It wasn't very expensive. It's pretty, it's thoughtful, it's a little extra something. We have so many things like Vera Bradley fabric pencils. I was like, oh, that'd be a good teacher gift. Fun, like dumb gifts you give your friend who drinks a lot of wine. We had one of those, like it attaches to the top of the wine bottle, but it's a glass. So you just drink the bottle. I'm like, okay, I don't know. Do you want this? I don't.
Pretty popular these days.
Friendly ideas, because there's been tons of baking, tons of drinking, and tons of just doing things that are brain dead.
And it's kind of like how I personally love going to Marshall's and TJ Maxx because I don't really know what I want to buy. I just want to find something that's cool and not feel bad that I bought it. And that's the same type of experience here. It's really like you just come in and it's like, I don't know. Oh, I didn't know I needed this antique map. This is, oh, it's in French. This is fun. Then you're like redecorating your whole living room because you found a random map at Trove, and it's fun.
So would you say, and this is always, for those treasure hunters, such a fascinating thing. Was there something that you got contributed and it was like the most amazing thing you've ever seen or unexpected?
Well, recently we did this big estate, and the whole closet, it was like I don't even know, probably a 30,000 square foot home in Bel Air. And the entire like third floor was a closet. And there was so much vintage Gucci. It was, I mean, I'm not a big clothes source, but even I was like, oh, this is crazy. And it was so cool because everyone was so excited. It was like this thing thrown in a little bag, and I'm like, what is this? I unwrap it. It's like, those ponchos you get that fold up in a little bag. It was that, but it was Gucci.
Wow.
From the 80s. I was like, oh.
Wow.
But personally, probably my favorite thing that ever came in, this is probably only an exciting story to me, but when I was growing up, I would go to my grandparents' Jersey Shore house, and they had this little like door stopper that was a Scotty dog, and it was like, I don't know, it's like made of like iron or something. And I don't know why, I just always remember that dog. And somebody brought the exact thing in.
No.
Wow.
There's probably like every house in America had it in the 60s. I don't know. But I was like,
You transported back in time to that little girl.
They're like, what are you going to put on this? Like $10? I'm like, oh, $10. I'm insulted. We have to put much higher. And there's a lot of that, like going down memory lane. You see a lot of that, like people just getting nostalgic, seeing things like, oh, my mom had earrings like this, or, oh, I remember my aunt would always, these are the exact dishes that so-and-so had that was important in my life. So it's really fun. It's like an anthropological experience.
I was on a quest at one point to find the champagne saucers, because everybody had flutes these days, but I love the old-fashioned saucers because a lot of the bars and the mixologists these days were going back to using saucers for the champagne flutes. And so I came in a couple of times just trying to find the saucer, and they're like not very easy to find, although more places are starting to make them again. But I was like, 2 years ago, it was very difficult to find champagne saucers. And
yes,
wonderful glassware section over there. So it was peruse through there.
We had a set dresser buy, like, we had 40 of those coupes, those champagne saucers you're talking about, and she happened to call, and then she bought them all for a set. Wow. And I was like, oh. I told her, I was like, bring them back when you're done with the set. Someone else will buy them. Yeah,
we'll keep repurposing it. Yeah. Think of that's the nature of the consignment.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
So awesome. It's so great to I've always known you, obviously, and we're involved with the businesses within the community, and I knew you from the various parents that overlap into our lives. But it's so great to hear how the experience has been. It's already been 4 years. It's unbelievable. I remember when
that's amazing.
I remember when you and Lisa came in when we first opened, and you guys were like, oh, I want to introduce ourselves, West Side Neighborhood Council. And I'm like, well, is this real in my community? We have this? This is awesome. And thank you for all your support in the beginning.
The welcome wagon.
Yeah.
And the battles we've had to fight to keep you there.
I know. Oh God.
Darn city laws and ordinances.
Those laws.
Mumbo jumbo. Yeah. So silly. I know. It's just so ridiculous, just the verbiage of certain things. So
yeah, and it shows you how far resale has come, especially when we reference those laws where resale shops were like pawn shops, kind of like a blight on society, like nobody wants them in their neighborhood. And now it's like every young person in the world is like upset. They only want resale, which is funny to me. As a 30-year-old.
Going to Saks and buying something, off the rack anymore. They want to have a purpose and reusing things.
And some of the younger folks want it to look aged. They want it to be like that broken in look that you can only get.
Well,
I'm
I
curious.
I think too, with the advent of so much retail suffering and the loss of that as part of our general sense of community purpose these days, where little businesses can survive, that when you can come to somebody like your consignment store, like the Trove, which is an amalgamation of all those little stores, right? It's the clothing store as it is the shoe store, as it is the glassware, etc.
Yep.
And you can find it all there, and it has a vintage feel to it as well. But it's practical and it's accessible, and it's actually something you can see, you can touch. And so I think you add a huge component, and I love that you identified yourself. Like, look, it's not pretentious. Like, I can remember going to different stores in different areas where you felt like, ooh, am I comfortable being in there?
Yeah.
Whereas yours is like, no, come on in and go through it all and see what you catches your eye.
It's
Yeah,
so
we
cool.
definitely try to tell people that we don't enjoy saying no. You know, some places where it's vulnerable. Like, you're bringing your stuff and then someone's like deciding if it's good enough. You're like, oh, I don't want to bring my stuff. I don't like that. My stuff, no. I have like stuff anxiety, stuff dysmorphia, or whatever.
Sean, you'll love this one. Judy says there was an antique store over on Abbot Kinney years ago called Merchant of Venice, and they had a sign on their wall that read, "Nobody cares what your grandmother had. Your grandfather."
Oh. Well, in the beginning, we did appointments, and it was nice because we got to know everybody and we got to hear like the story of all of the things. And and I do miss that. I genuinely miss it. But sometimes you did kind of feel like, this is feeling like maybe not so productive from a business perspective, because we're just like, tell us more. What was that like? Where'd you grow up? And then why did they move there? Oh, weird.
Actually, I had a question. What if you come across something that is really rare and very unique, and you feel like, wow, we're not even sure we have a marketplace for it, but do you have resources or places you would refer people to go to have those things?
Yeah, we definitely want people to get the most for their items. We do have a network of dealers that we work with on the East Coast, because sometimes there are things in Southern California that just won't sell as well. Like, we had a really valuable grandfather clock. It was super traditional. It wasn't really like the vibe of LA. So there was someone in Delaware that ended up buying it. It's a little bit easier now. If someone brings in like a very valuable piece of art, we'll just say like, hey, art is hard. So we recommend, like, maybe you want to contact an auction house. Maybe you want to have this appraised. Otherwise, here's our best guess. And so that for those kinds of unique cases, we always tell them, get more information and then do what's comfortable for you. But we're pretty good. We work with some specialists to help us do our jewelry and antiques. And we've actually learned a ton. But, there's a lot of stuff's just a click away if you kind of have like a good lens and know what you're looking up.
Right.
When we first started, we didn't know the difference between like, they're like silver hallmarks. You're like, oh my God, it's like hieroglyphics. Yeah. But now we're pretty good. We're like, oh, it's a lion. Okay, it's English silver. So you get the hang of it. It's usually the opposite. That people come in and they're like, this is worth $5 million. And we're like, I think it's worth $5. I think it's worth what people will pay for it.
Right.
And that's economics. That's where the Wharton degree comes in.
It's true. And any buy and sell, it's supply and demand, and it's only worth
real estate. I'm sure you guys have the same thing where people are like, this is, but I gave, my child came home from the hospital and this. It's like, okay, nobody cares. Nobody wants to hear that.
Nobody cares.
Well, Danielle, Sean is an art connoisseur. He does have a pretty amazing eye, and his father-in-law was a contemporary artist, and Sean knows a lot about art. We go through our house, and especially like a probate or a trustee sale, and he's like, that is a this and a that. I'm like, wow.
Art is so hard. Cool. Art is my hardest thing. I feel like art, I'm never going to know anything. It's impossible. It's so much to know. It's really specialized. There was just a TED talk about valuing art. It was really interesting, but what it told me was like, basically I know nothing. So
that's a lifelong journey in the same boat. Actually, it's funny because the lady Judy that Jay referenced a minute ago is my mother-in-law, I'm sure. And she's pulling up the different stories. And she's the one with the amazing art collection. Quite honestly, that I've become a beneficiary of the relationship, where just through her lens and growing up as a child of an artist and in the art communities early on in Los Angeles, just being exposed to it. But what's really cool about it is all the little crossover things that you learn to appreciate, whether it's art itself or fine glassware or potters and things like that. That's where it's always intriguing. And with the advent of discovery, like there is a story that you guys used to be able to have the time to really get, like, where did it come from? And really, did William Penn really, sip tea from this cup or saucer or what have you?
The
it adds context. Right.
But it's cool because, art is also something that shows up in a lot of jewelry. So we have a lot of Southwest jewelry, and people come in here and they're shopping. But what I love so much is this community of resellers and dealers. It's known to be like cutthroat, but I find everyone shares a lot of knowledge with each other. We've learned so much from our customers. We had a customer the other day show us like the setting in the stone, how you know if it's like true Navajo jewelry, and then you have to look on the back. I'm like, oh, let me write this down. This is amazing.
Yeah, no kidding. That's a history lesson.
You just feel like you're always learning. Just when you think you know something, you're like, oh, I thought Amelia Castillo was the premier, Southern whatever. And you learn, oh no, there's actually this artist that she learned from. So it's cool. It's definitely like you're always a student.
No kidding. And you learn about a lot of stuff, that's for darn sure. But at the end of the day, you can't take the stuff with you. So
True.
Just got to live your very best life while you can.
Enjoy it, and when you're done with it, bring it here.
Yes, exactly. When you're done with it, bring it here. And if it comes back, bring it over again. Do it again and again.
Exactly.
Danielle, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure.
Our time is up. Sorry, we kept you a little bit extra, but you had such fascinating stories, and we loved hearing more about the store and the behind the curtain look at what the process is, and get to know the store and you a little bit better. So,
well, let's make sure that our viewership actually has access to the information.
Oh, they
Danielle,
put it on early in the show, Sean. That link and Trove and all the information
next to Pitfire. That's all anyone ever needs to know. In
physically walk in.
Exactly.
Yeah, we share a parking lot. Get some meatballs and then come here.
And that chalk preschool, which I'm sure has been dark this whole time, but so there's a whole little enclave of great little places right there. And stay safe, Danielle. Happy holidays.
Yes,
you
please.
too.
21 will be a different thing, and we hope to visit back again and just check in on you and seeing how as things change, that hopefully it continues to stay robust and profitable for you. So thank you so much for all that you do.
Thank you,
Bye,
guys.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Wow. I mean, who knew this whole little world? I mean, everything has its own little world and backstory, right? Of what goes into things. So it's amazing. It's amazing.
No, it's super cool to get. It's good to get context. It's also interesting when you talk to a guest like Danielle, who obviously is highly educated and successful in a professional life and has a family, and then says, hey, I'm following my inspiration. I'm going to do something that is nostalgic and interesting and contextual to me. Like, this is my life experience because this is what my mother did. And then you get into it, and then the realities of it set in, and what an ownership is like of a small business, and that it is very much a marriage and something you can't neglect, and you have to spend a lot of time in, and especially with someone like her, where there's always inventory that's constantly cycling through. And then you throw in a pandemic and you stay at home orders and all these other kind of challenges. But how do you flex and pivot and change and adapt and do it with a passion? I would say to the viewership, that is definitely a store worth visiting. It's worth it to spend the 10, 15, 20 minutes, walk through there, see what happens there. And I would really implore people to consider, as they are, like she had mentioned, in the donation mode or cleaning out mode, as you do, the consignment's a reasonable place. You can bring it there, and it has a twofold benefit. One, people are going to consume it. You're going to know that they're going to want it. They're going to use it. So it's not wasteful, which is a huge thing that she addressed there. And then the second part of it is, and if you make money from the consignment, you could donate the money if that's what you want as a specific charity. I mean, she chose St. Jude's or other. We certainly have no shortage of places where we can make contribution. these days, where so much is in need of additional support. But what a nice application, so that you offer that flexibility. I think Trove, like the store that we had last week with Gifted, these are very important community resources that we want to make sure we illuminate, because they add a certain amount of flavor. They add a certain amount of character. They add depth and richness to our communities and to our way of life, and they deserve to be supported. And in these times, especially since we are all having to stay inside for the next couple of 3 weeks, how important it is to make sure that those little businesses can endure and get through this next phase, and hopefully still be there come out the other side with being the good community resources they are.
Yeah. To keep going, but I mean, well, I'm glad that you've been well enough to join the show today. I was so worried about you. I mean, it's literally every minute of the day, like, I hope he's okay, I hope he's okay, I hope he's okay. And I found that a couple other friends also, and just got diagnosed with COVID as well. So it's rampant. It is what they say. I mean, pretty much everybody at some point is probably going to get affected.
I think so. It's we really practice very safely for the most part, but then you start to kind of analyze, like, ooh, there was vulnerability there, or I went and did this, or I don't know, I pumped gas and maybe I didn't disinfect right, or maybe I did hug somebody, or you start to play back over your mind. Interestingly enough, as we were tested, the LA County Health Department actually sent us a message this morning via text saying, hey, listen, we're going to have somebody outreach to you. So please take the call. If you see a phone number coming with the prefix 835, that's us wanting to connect with you. And I suspect it is about kind of contact tracing,
right,
and making sure that you are practicing protocols.
Maybe the antibody testing in the future as well, or I mean,
yeah, whatever. Yeah, whatever they're willing to. Listen, it's a big picture thing, and I don't need to get into conspiracy theory world. I'm like, look, it's practical. We have a virus. Develop antibodies. The virus will mutate. It'll change, but for a period of time, what I have will be something that they can maybe learn from, or whatever the habits are. If nothing else, illuminate to others. Like, just be that little bit more extra cautious. Just take that next step. And really do everyone a favor. I understand your concerns about a mask or wearing one, or just wear a mask. It is, at some level, it's a help, even if it's just psychological. But personally, for me, having gotten this and trying to understand where was I vulnerable, I'm like,
because
okay,
you're a germaphobe and you're very careful. I mean, you always have a mask. You always sanitize your hands.
My hands are literally raw from washing them. I mean, they literally are, because I do get a little nuts about it. And my wife even more so, she's extra cautious. And so anyway, I don't wish it upon anybody, but I do suspect we'll all be dealing with it at some level. And I want everyone just to be safe. And we are on the heavy vitamin D, vitamin C, zinc protocols, so that you can try to navigate it. But I will say that I am most definitely fatigued and achy, and that's been 4 or 5 days, which has been fairly unrelenting. It's pretty steady, which is interesting for it to last that long.
Yeah, I mean, we found out earlier this week that our travel plans for the holidays to Kauai as a family has been
I'm sorry
on that. But I guess a couple still try to go there, and from San Francisco to Kauai, they tested positive for COVID, and they still got on the flight to go to Kauai.
Wow, that's selfish. That's unconscionable.
Well, it's a felony crime, so they're going to jail. So
wow.
I was like, wow.
Except for they'll probably release them out of jail because they don't want any of the prisoners to get COVID. It's just such a crazy town. But to your point, there is that social responsibility. Even when we think about taking our little dogs for a walk, I wait until it's very late at night. I'm talking like 11 o'clock at night. I'm wearing a mask, and I'm just kind of cautiously going up and around my block. And if I see somebody walking, because I have occasionally, I cross the street and stay 50 feet away from them, not 50.
Right.
And really, other than that, haven't been outside the front of my house for 5 or 6 days and don't intend to be for another couple of weeks, because I just think it's not responsible, and we have to think of others in this case. And there are so many people that are so vulnerable that you just don't know where their vulnerabilities lie, where it can be a much more devastating experience for them. So I'm sorry to hear your plans have changed, because Christmas in Hawaii is a pretty special place to be, that's for sure. But we'll find another day and time for that, I'm sure.
Well, it's a tag team because you physically can't be out showing property, and I have a ton I'm showing today, tomorrow, Sunday. So
Wow, that's fantastic.
I
That's
will be,
fantastic.
I am booking appointments and having peds, sending out. I have a whole list of about 9 of them I got to send out after the show is over. So for 4 different buyers. So it's a busy one. Still trying to find homes before year end and help people transition. So it's busy. Our lease on Parnell, literally after 4 days on market, and I don't know however many showings I did on that one's done, and hopefully we'll get Overland done. I got to tell you the crazy story when the show is over about what happened there with the lockbox. That was fun. And then we got, our beautiful duplex. I mean, it's still getting a lot of action, but it's really hard in this environment when there's a tenant in place to try to figure out those next steps on those kind of situations. So that's just a recap on all the stuff that's been going on. I mean, even with Thanksgiving, I think Thanksgiving, the actual day of Thanksgiving, even though there was still a few emails and texts that came through for a showing request, it was the first real break really of just from technology in a while, because it has just been, so as Danielle was saying, it's just out of the woodworks. It's just mayhem and craziness and busyness, no matter whichever way you turn. And I guess it's a good thing. You got to make hay while the sun shines. But for now, you rest and you get better, and the family and everyone else. And all we can hope for is that you just come out this other side stronger and more, obviously stronger than those of us who still haven't gotten it and still scared of it. So,
Reasonably to be concerned. Reasonable to be concerned.
Yeah. So,
Well, thank you for
anyway,
that.
Yeah. Well, happy birthday weekend. It's Sunday. It's your birthday.
Thank you.
And I'm gonna have to have a sugarfish on my own until January, when you're gonna emerge.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm in a cocoon. So we'll see how that works.
Postmates does deliver. So if you have taste buds, it's one of those things. We could have it via Zoom. I could send you your sugarfish meal, and I can have mine here, and it won't be the same, but we can still enjoy sushi.
It'll be a pretty short Zoom, because you know how quickly I can eat that fish. Okay, bye.
Literally, it's like the whole wait of getting in, being in line back in the day when we'd wait for it, and then you get there, and then we're like whales, done, out, filled.
No, it's funny because they would always have that, like, well, they want you to eat it as it's served, and it's part of their whole how they move the restaurant and sell and turn tables. And you would want a language, but we were like the perfect clients, because they'd no more put the plate down. Okay, where's my next plate? Yeah, exactly.
I tell you, well, there's so many things that we constantly reminisce about, but definitely know that hopefully not in the near or too future, we'll be back to life as we knew it, and maybe never be the same again. To have so much content, so many months, habits formed in 21 days. Well, we've had 9 months of obviously being socially, physically distanced, socially trying to still connect, but physically distanced from people, and hopefully those are not things that continue on.
Well, it's funny you say that, because Jill and I were kind of waxing a little nostalgic about it the other day. I was like, do you remember when you were doing puzzles? that seems like a lifetime ago. But in the very beginning of the pandemic, she did like 10 puzzles, and it was a whole puzzle brigade of people shifting puzzles because it occupied your anxiety, right? With the unknown. And now 9 months later, you're like, I'm pretty comfortable with the unknown because it's very unknown. Like, how is it going to change and shift? And, you know, I guess what ultimately we do is we adapt to whatever the circumstances are, and hopefully we adapt good habits. And to your point, things will be in this point of history. Hopefully we will find this to be a down point in history, and that the lessons we'll have learned will be another ascension to new heights of consciousness and how we behave socially and how we treat one another, and how you really want to make sure that you reach out and tell those people you love that you love them, and make them feel the love and the connection. Because it's amazing to me. It's a blink of an eye. I think of the family members that I haven't been able to see, or friends, and it's almost a year. In just another couple months, it'll be a year. Like, what? An entire year. So, you know, being flexible and growing and learning. You know, I love that in Danielle. She talked about it, how she learns all the time in her business and learns new things. And that's one of the good lessons of today's show, is just that this constant adaptation and learning. And I will tell you, if you learn anything from me, people, wash your hands even more and stay further away from people. Always wear a mask, at least for the time being.
I know. Well, enjoy and just stay safe.
Thank you.
What you're doing. Happy birthday, my friend.
Thank you
so much.
Love you too, Jay. Thank you.
If I know anything, you at least have some baked item for your birthday, no matter how everybody's feeling. So
yeah, I'm sure there is just food. So
family. So
yes, thank you.
all right.
All right.
Well, peace
Take
out.
care. Thank you, girl. Big